Relax for a minute and have a smoke break. When you stressed out, light up, have a smoke break. We know you ain't got no cake, you got no weight. Think about it while you take a little smoke break.
They're coming in from other places and stuff, but the world can change pretty fast, can it?
It can, it really can.
It really can, yeah.
So what it does, people. My name is Floss, aka the Riverman, and today I'm with Neil. He's an activist for the community, the cannabis community, and we're gonna know exactly for how long and who he is. So Neil, what's up?
Well, man, I've been doing this for quite a while.
Okay.
I guess it was 1999 when my son and I went to our first 420 rally in Vancouver here. And right away we became the volunteers to help make it all go smoothly.
Okay.
And for 5 years we would go to every 420 rally and every Cannabis Day and Global Marijuana March and the other protests that were happening, and just be there and help out and say some things sometimes, but mostly just be volunteers.
Okay.
And then after 5 years of that, the guy that was putting these rallies on, he asked me if I would help him move. And I'm helping him move. And he says, would you consider being my business partner? Because he learned that I had a whole bunch of renovation skills.
Okay.
And he had a building that was offered to him for really cheap rent right at Main and Hastings.
Okay.
And he wanted me to help him renovate that space. And that's what I did. The next long weekend, I took the weekend to help him renovate that space. And I read a book called The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Herer. You probably know the book. Many people know the book. And it really blew my mind, just how many uses cannabis had, how valuable it was, why it was prohibited, and how wrong it all was. And it really caused me to have an epiphany in my life. And I cried my eyes out about how horrible it was. And I decided I had to do something about it. And so I quit my job the next morning.
I am quitting this job today. Hey, hey, hey.
Really?
And moved into that place. And crammed every night to learn as much as I could about cannabis, about prohibition, about rights and freedoms. And it mostly became about rights for me, about the freedom of an individual to make their own choices about things. That, when you first arrive here and your parents or your guardians, they get to tell you that you have to do this and you can't do that. And then you get to a point where you rise above that and you say, thank you, I appreciate that. I don't share all of your values. I'm going to be my own person now. And after that, nobody has the right to tell you have to do things you don't want to do, or that you can't do what you want to do unless you're harming other people.
Basically.
And so we've risen above the kings and the queens and the dictators and the tyrants, and we've got this system of government which is public servants, in a democracy, and we vote and shit. And so that should give us good freedom, and the role of the government should be to protect all of our freedoms. But instead it's been very corrupted over the years, and these big corporations and these kingdoms and all the rest of it have gotten influence over our politicians, and now they serve their interests and not the interests of the people.
So what's your take on that? The fact that the government is trying to control the cannabis itself?
Well, sure, it's all about money and control. That's what it's all about. It's greed. It's greed for the riches that they can glean, and the energy that you can take off of all the people, and then the control of people. They like that too. They're addicted to being able to push buttons and be in charge of people. So all of that has corrupted our system so that our public servants aren't serving us anymore. And the best example of that is the prohibition of weed. The attempt to try to prohibit this amazing plant that is so beneficial and so not harmful and dangerous is just the most ludicrous example of how we're not free here. So that became very powerful to me. I don't like bullies, and I didn't like my dad when he started bullying me around. I didn't like bullies all my life. And now I'm doing this renovation on this space, and I'm learning about the prohibition of weed and how this is a bunch of bullies, and they're just having their way with us, and it's wrong. And it's not only wrong, but it's doing so much harm. So many people are being harmed, so many families are being torn apart, so much tax dollars wasted on policemen. We hate the police, We should love the police. They're there to protect us, so nobody steals our shit or hurts us, right? But instead we hate them. We're afraid of them because they're going to look in our pockets and see if we have some flowers that we're not supposed to have or something. And, they're not protecting us. So all of this corruption is what really bothered me a lot. And I had to quit my job that night.
I quit.
And it all really came to a head that this plant is so powerful and so beneficial, and it's the leading example of how we're not free and the government is corrupt, and I got to do something about it. Now that I've really got this information, I figured I had to do something about it. So I called my boss at 4:20 in the morning. I was supposed to go to work that Tuesday morning after a long weekend. And I said, Fred, I can't come to work, man. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I got to do something because this is really wrong. And I told him what it was about. I'd worked for him for a couple of years doing heritage restoration. I'm a carpenter.
Okay.
And he was a little old bald-headed guy. And you know, we didn't know each other personally. He was just my boss, right? But he said, hey, I used to be a hippie back in the day.
Okay, he opened himself.
I never knew that about him. And he said, I totally understand, man. No hard feelings. I wish you all the best. And so that's what started it for me. That was in 2004.
Okay.
And I went full time. I moved into that place that we had renovated. We did drug war history walking tours. We were the center for activism in Vancouver. We were the second dispensary in Vancouver. Vancouver had the Compassion Club. We had fought very hard as activists to have that. And that was where you needed a doctor's permission, you know, the confirmation, the diagnosis, and everything had to be by the book. And we were different. We were more of a recreational adult model. We were also medical because everything's medical with cannabis, you know.
Yes,
there's no non-medical. But what we required is that people over the age of 16 would take our drug war history walking tour. That we would walk through this part of the city where we had the Asian riots that happened over opium and then the opium restrictions, and through Gastown, which had the Grasstown riots in the 70s, and then back to Main and Hastings, which is the number one drug dealing space in North America there, and that's where we had our little store, our little school. We called it the Drug War History, or the Herb School, the History of Organic Cultivation. Oh my God!
What's the school?
Funny how you get a mind fart like that every once in a while, eh? But.
What are we coming here for?
The Herb School was the.
It's okay. Take your time.
That's just so crazy that I would forget that. But anyway, and here we are. I've
Now
been doing that
today-
ever since. We were the center of activism there. As I said, the fellow that asked me to help him with that, he was the one putting on the 420 rally and the Cannabis Day rally and things like that. So I became one of the organizers that I've been one of the main organizers of 420 in Vancouver ever since. I sing "Oh Cannabis." I'm going to do that here at 420. I've been doing that for over 15 years now at all the different events and stuff. I wrote that back in the day, so we'd have some sort of a respectful, thought-provoking version of "Oh Cannabis." There was a bunch of ones that were more about stupid stoners and things like that. And probably most important to your audience is what we've been doing. We fought for legalization. We supported the Liberal government in bringing in legalization, and they absolutely screwed us. You know, they decided that all their insider friends could be the ones in charge of growing weed and supplying it to all Canadians. And so Trudeau gets to be the biggest drug dealer in Canada, and nobody gets to sell weed or grow weed except for him and his buddies, right? Anybody pays a lot of money to him. And the medical cannabis, that's the most horrible part about this so-called legalization, is that they've used our tax dollars and our police resources to wipe out the medical cannabis dispensaries, the ones that had all the good products, the edibles that people needed. The people that are suffering and sick in Canada really were relying on these storefronts and these illegal dispensaries, and they've shut most of them down with our tax dollars. So that is really, really horrible. And in Vancouver, that all started back in 2016, where the civic government here in Vancouver decided to regulate and license the illegal dispensaries. This is before Trudeau came into power. And so their regulations that they implemented on these dispensaries that would qualify eliminated 7 of the revenue streams, including edibles. And it was way more about eliminating almost all of them. Only a few could really comply. And then a $30,000 license fee every year on top of that, just to try to discourage them as much as they could. But at the same time, we were having an overdose crisis with poison drug supply, with fentanyl killing people on the downtown east side and all through the city and all around North America. And what I had learned when we opened that herb school back 16 years ago was that edibles could get people off of opioids. We were right at Main and Hastings. Many of our clientele became people from the area that were using hard drugs and misusing hard drugs. And we found out that a couple of good strong brownies could get somebody right through the withdrawals. And then good strong edibles could replace those opioids for people. So when the government shut down the edible supply in these dispensaries at the same time as the overdose crisis was killing people with a poison drug supply, well, to me it was like, holy smokes, we need to have edibles available to people so they don't do these other drugs and die. So I went first to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, an advocacy group for the hard drug users, and I presented my idea to them. Let's make it as easy as possible for people to transition off of opioids by just giving them away. High dose edibles, let's give them away as best we can. So can I have your approval to go to City Council and have your support and present that to them?
Is that something that you guys are still fighting for today?
Well, we won the fight.
You guys won?
We won the fight. So that was in 2016. I went to City Council, I said, this is what we're gonna do, and they didn't even want to talk to me about it at all. But I knew a lot of dispensary owners here in Vancouver, I'd been one myself, and so I went to my friends and said, hey, I want to give away cannabis edibles, get people off opioids. You got anything you can give me? And I got a whole bunch of edibles. I went to VANDU, they got a big office right by Main and Hastings. And I said, I got all these edibles, can I set up a table and give them out? And they said, yeah. So I did that, and I just, put a bunch in a baggie and handed them to people that wanted them. And then I came back when I had more, and I came back when I had more. And I never posted when I was coming back. I never told them when I was coming back, because I really didn't know. But I did get into a rhythm of picking up stuff during the week and then showing up there at noon on Saturday. And I did that 3 times in a row. Okay. And the 4th time, there was a long lineup of people waiting for me, and there was a handful of people that were saying, hey, we want to help you, man. We want to volunteer for what you're doing. And that became the Cannabis Substitution Project. Okay. And that was 3.5 years ago that we started doing that. We met once a week for the first year, every Saturday, and then we changed it to Sundays and Thursdays and went twice a week. We gave out about 250 to 300 care packs every time we went there.
Nice.
Of 4 to 6 edibles and a joint, a cap, something like that. And then 2.5 years after doing that, so a year ago now, the city passed a motion because of what we were doing, saying that they would support and allow low barrier access, and that's very key, low barrier access to cannabinoids to address the overdose crisis. So we met with the councillor that put that motion forward, and she said, I understand who you are. You're with VANDU. You're the guys that do stuff before it's allowed to be done, because that's how you save lives. And we understand that you're going to find a place and open it and start doing what you're doing in a storefront and provide low barrier access. And if you do that, then we will come and see what you're doing. And if we like it, we'll support it and we'll license it. So it took us a year to find a storefront, because people don't want to rent to people here about cannabis now. They're afraid they're going to lose their property. But we found a friendly landlord 2 months ago now, and we've opened the Healing Wave Low Barrier Access Dispensary. It's at 157 East Cordova Street, just down the street here.
Repeat that again for the camera.
157 East Cordova Street in Vancouver. We are the Healing Wave Low Barrier Access Medical Dispensary. And low barrier means you have to have really low prices. And low barrier means you can't have lousy cannabis, you've got to have good quality medical cannabis. We have the full range, a whole bunch of different edibles, concentrates, flowers. Our prices for flower start at $2.50 for a gram, and they end at $6 a gram. And our $6 weed is as good as the $14 weed in the other dispensaries.
Oh my God! Wow! Oh my God!
Low barrier means that we don't turn people away. If you look like you're over 18 years of age, we won't ID you. We don't expect ID, but you have to be a member. So we're going to ask you, what name do you want on your membership card? You tell us the name. We'll ask you if this next number in our book is a good number for you. And if it is, we have a match and you're a member. And we have about 25% of our now 780 members just in the last 2 months. About 25% of those people are not using their real name, and it's quite obvious that they're not. And they wouldn't have ID to show us if we asked for it, and they would be turned away from every other access point for medical cannabis. And those people are some of the more vulnerable people in our society that we need to help, and we can't be turning them away. So that's what we got going on. The city licensing department decided that we had to have a license or shut down, which prompted calls to our Minister of Addiction, to the councillor that passed the motion, to the local NDP MLA, and to the Premier's office. And all 4 of those were extremely supportive of us, very encouraging, said that they care about what's going on. They're going to try to make sure it all works. I haven't heard a thing from the licensing department guy since, and that's about a month ago now. And our lawyer, John Conroy, is doing an excellent job of both dealing with the licensing department, these other people I mentioned, and also what we're doing is we're trying to get an exemption through a ministerial exemption, a section 140 apparently, to sell medical cannabis. And we're going to succeed at that because not only do we have 780 members now in the Healing Wave dispensary side that can purchase cannabis at really low prices, but we have over 200 people that are registered on the Cannabis Substitution Project, which is part of the dispensary, where they get it for free. They get 420 milligrams of their choice of edibles every 4 days. 420 every 4 days. And many of them have been with us right from the beginning of our program. Many of them report that they're not using any other street drugs, they're just using the edibles. And so we've been very, very successful. Dr. MJ Malloy at UBC, the cannabis professor there, he's released over 30 papers in the last year about the effectiveness of cannabinoids in dealing with opioid addiction. And it's all showing that this works. When used properly, this can really be successful for people. So they're not going to be able to shut us down. They wouldn't dare, because they'd be turning people back out onto the streets and the poison drug supply.
And that would be a big problem.
That would be a big problem for them. We would then go to the media, we would make them look bad. And I don't want to do that. I want the government to look good. I want us to help make them look good. I want them to look good because they're supporting what we're doing. So they're going to. They have to.
They have to.
So they're going to give us a piece of paper with a signature on it that says, there you go, keep doing what you're doing and thank you. And that means that all kinds of other people all across Canada, every community that's got problems with this opioid crisis, gets to have a medical dispensary with low barrier access, not supplied by LPs, because the LPs, they don't want no part of low barrier access. Nope. They don't want no part of $2.50 grams. So, they're going to leave us alone. You go ahead, call yourself medical, deal with these people that we don't want to deal with anyway, and we're going to have real legalization here in Canada, finally. That's the final piece of the puzzle that we've been working on for all these years. We've got them where we want them. They can't deny us. We have to be able to have really good cannabis at really good prices for people, not irradiated.
So what would you like to say to finish off the discussion? What would you like to give about the cannabis community?
It's been quite a journey. We have fought many battles. It's been a tough journey against such powerful, well-leveraged groups that don't want legalization. They want to control the drugs that you take. They don't want you growing your own medicine. And even fuel. Cannabis is an amazing source of fuel, 10 times more efficient than corn. And so all of these very powerful forces have been trying to keep this plant prohibited and out of the marketplace for a very long time. And we're winning. We're not done yet. And that's what I'd want to say, is we got a little ways to go. We need to take the victories that we've got here and we need to use it to understand the corruption that happens in government. So we have government that becomes limited in what they can do, so they can't prohibit free people from accessing nature for what helps us in our health, that could never happen again. It should never happen again. So we need them limited. We need them accountable. So if they ever try shit like that again, that they get hung by their fucking toes, that it becomes a heinous crime. Because a crime is how much damage you do on that set of scales held by that blindfolded woman, When they prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that you did damage, it weighs that side of the scale down. And a penalty is the other side of the scale to balance it. You did this much damage, we give you this much penalty. Well, these corrupt politicians that have been abusing us and oppressing us for so long, how many millions of people have they harmed? How much damage have they done? The penalty should be worse than hanging by their toes. So that's what I want. We're not done yet. We need to take all of this and make it a reality, and we'll have a way better cannabis-based future.
The camera is done.
Perfect.
Have a good one, Neil.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you too. Thank you.
So today is BC Bud Day here. To me, BC stands for bring cash. Mucho dinero. But you got a lot of different people bringing in different types of herbs, medicines, oils, pipes. Yeah. How are we doing there? What's the time? 2 minutes to go.
2 minutes.
2 more minutes. Hello? Is this thing working? Bonjour. Hey, Montreal. Comment ça va? Have a great day. It's 4:20 here in Vancouver right now. Peace out. Thanks.
There we go. It's still 4:19, but I think that's only for a few more. Oh, cannabis, the sacred plant of peace. With healing power, it helps our eyes to see. And with glowing joints, we make the points that the true north should be free. And with wise red eyes, we criticize the war against our family, our favorite tree.
What it do, smokers? Merci d'avoir écouté l'épisode. En passant, les amis, si vous voulez vous abonner, cliquez ici. Et si vous voulez regarder mes anciens épisodes, cliquez là. Puis en passant dans la description, il y aura les tags des personnes qui ont participé dans mon épisode. Vous pouvez aller les follow.